Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a set of sources that unpack a surprisingly blunt, yet, profound philosophy on living a better life. This isn't your usual self-help talk, the kind that tells you to just think positive all the time. No, this gives a really refreshing, almost brutally honest take on our choices, on life itself. It really challenges a lot of those standard self-improvement ideas. We're looking closely at an audiobook summary of Mark Manson's big bestseller, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck. And, well, for anyone who's felt kind of overwhelmed by that constant chase for happiness, this offers a really striking alternative.
Absolutely. And what's so fascinating, I think, is how this perspective really pushes back against conventional wisdom about what happiness and success even are.
Yeah.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the core insights, to understand why not giving a feck, as the title says, is actually about being more intentional, more selective, and ultimately maybe more fulfilled, not less. So yeah, get ready for some aha moments that might just shift how you look at things.
Okay, let's unpack this right away, because the very first big idea, it's kind of a curveball, isn't it? The path to a better life isn't, endless positivity or always chasing pleasure. Actually, the source argues it's about learning to deal with pain and discomfort. That
Yeah.
feels, well, it feels totally counterintuitive. How does embracing the tough stuff make us happier?
Well, the core idea here is that constantly chasing more success, more pleasure, more validation from others, it actually leaves us feeling pretty anxious, insecure, and just wiped out. It's a paradox, really. The harder you chase happiness, the less happy you might feel. So the philosophy suggests life gets genuinely better when we become really selective about what we let bother us, choosing what truly matters, and, consciously letting the rest go. It's about being smart with your emotional energy, not just being indifferent to everything.
Right, so it's like that relentless pressure for self-improvement, always needing to be better, happier. That could actually be the problem.
Yep.
That trying to force happiness just backfires. That really flips the script on so much self-help advice. It's quite a thought. It is. It's a fundamental shift in perspective.
Okay, so building on that idea of being selective, it feels like we're constantly pulled in, I don't know, a million directions.
Yeah.
The source makes this really stark point. Our energy, our time, our attention, they're limited. They're finite. And if we just scatter them on every little drama, every minor criticism, every online spat, well, we burn out fast. So if we really only have a limited number of frecks to give, as Manson puts it, how do we figure out where they're best spent? Yeah, that really brings up the essential question for everyone, right? What do you genuinely, truly care about? The advice here is pretty clear. Care deeply about a few really important things: your core values, your real relationships, your own growth, and then actively let the other stuff slide. Your values act like a filter, basically. They decide what gets your precious attention. And if your values are kind of shallow, like needing constant admiration or just piling up wealth, the source argues, you're basically setting yourself up for suffering. Instead, it suggests adopting values like, say, honesty, curiosity, resilience, things that are internal that help you stay grounded when life inevitably gets, well, messy.
Mm-hmm. That clarity on value seems absolutely crucial just for navigating day-to-day life and all its demands. But, okay, what happens when those personal values clash with this huge societal pressure we all feel? The pressure to be constantly amazing, especially with social media showing only the perfect highlights, hiding all the messy bits, the struggles.
Right, and that's where the source gives this direct warning about what it calls the exceptionalism trap. It's this pervasive belief that you have to be extraordinary, you have to be famous, or constantly achieving amazing things just to matter. And that mindset, it just breeds deep insecurity, doesn't it? Because we're always comparing ourselves to these impossible, curated standards. The healthier mindset, according to this philosophy, is actually accepting your inherent averageness in, many parts of life, embracing the mundane sometimes, and finding real meaning in the small, steady progress of actual imperfect life. Because most of life is ordinary, and that's not just okay, it's actually liberating.
That is a huge relief for, I think, a lot of us feeling that pressure, embracing our averageness.
Yeah.
But is there maybe a risk here? Does this edge towards complacency? How do you balance accepting the ordinary with still wanting to grow, still having ambition?
That's a great question, and that's where the next point kind of slots in. It's not about complacency at all. It's really about agency, personal power. The source puts it very bluntly. You may not be to blame for everything that happens, but you are always responsible for how you respond. And that shifts everything, doesn't it? It moves you from being a victim of circumstance to someone who has agency. This isn't about feeling guilty or ashamed. It's just about ownership.
Okay, so when we take that kind of responsibility, even for stuff we didn't directly cause,
Hmm.
what does that actually do for us? What does it unlock?
It unlocks control, or at least the control you do have. When you take responsibility for your response, you stop being just a passive recipient of whatever life throws at you. You become an active agent of change in your own life. And this is really how genuine transformation starts, isn't it? By facing your problems, whatever they are, head on, instead of avoiding them or blaming other people or just kind of wishing things were different.
Yeah, it's like turning the tables, using what feels like it's hitting you to actually regain some control.
Exactly. It's a powerful shift. Though I think many of us resist it instinctively because, let's face it, blaming can feel easier sometimes.
It really does shift the whole dynamic from feeling powerless to feeling, well, empowered. And if we're always responsible for our response, then the source also suggests that you're always choosing. Always. Even when we feel completely stuck, like there are no options. The argument is we're choosing to stay stuck. Even doing nothing is a choice. What's the power in really getting that, in internalizing that idea?
Well, recognizing that power of choice in absolutely everything, it empowers you to change direction
Yep.
at any moment. Complaining, blaming others, just waiting for things to magically get better, that's essentially giving your power away, consciously or not. But when you own your choices, even the really hard ones, the uncomfortable ones, the ones that maybe didn't turn out great, you reclaim your freedom. And that allows you to take steps, even tiny ones, towards what actually matters to you.
That's a really profound thought. Every single moment, even in action, is a choice we're making. It puts the responsibility, but also the opportunity squarely back on us. But how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate that awareness to consistently see those choice points, especially when we feel stuck or just overwhelmed?
That's the practice, isn't it? It links back to values. Knowing what matters helps you see the choices that align with those values. It's not easy, but it's possible.
Okay, let's talk about failure and rejection, because most people naturally pull back from those. We fear them. But the source claims these are actually, like, essential for growth. It even suggests rejection can make life better. That's incredibly counterintuitive for so many of us. How does Manson suggest we actually, I don't know, rewire our thinking to see these as good things when they often feel so bad initially?
Yeah, the key is reframing them completely. Failure isn't presented as a sign to just stop. It's seen as proof that you're actually pushing yourself, you're going beyond your current limits. I mean, think about it. Every skill you've ever learned, every success anyone's had, it's built on a whole series of setbacks and mistakes. Failure teaches us, it builds resilience, it provides data. And similarly, rejection. It's framed not as cruelty, but as clarity, information, learning to say no, setting boundaries, rejecting things that drain your energy, whether that's, toxic relationships or just meaningless obligations. That actually frees you up. It frees up your energy, your focus. So it's presented as an act of self-care, really. It lets you live with more intention, focused on what aligns with your chosen values.
Huh. So embracing failure and learning to say no, they're actually forms of self-care and growth, like pruning a plant, maybe, to help it grow stronger by cutting away what's not needed.
That's a great analogy, exactly. Clearing the path for what truly matters.
Okay, and then there's one of the most provocative ideas in the source material, what it calls the death question. Basically confronting our own mortality. It sounds heavy, maybe even depressing. Why bring death into a discussion about living a better life? What's the point of facing that ultimate truth?
Well, connecting it back to the bigger picture, the argument is that remembering our time is limited drastically changes our perspective, like fundamentally. It has this incredible ability to just strip away the superficial stuff that stops us from sweating the small stuff, as the saying goes. It forces us, in a way, to focus on what's truly meaningful in the finite time we actually have,
Yeah.
love, connection, maybe service, creativity, just being present. So by embracing the reality of death, we gain this incredibly valuable filter, a perspective that helps us make much better, more intentional choices while we're alive. It's the ultimate perspective check.
Wow. That is powerful. It really does cut through all the noise, the superficial concerns, and zeroes in on what really, truly counts. But is there maybe a danger there? Could thinking about the death question too much lead someone towards, I don't know, nihilism, becoming indifferent because, well, it all ends anyway?
That's a fair point. But that's precisely why the whole philosophy emphasizes choosing your values and acting with intention first. It's not about becoming indifferent to everything. It's about becoming indifferent to the wrong things, the trivial stuff, the distractions, the things that don't align with your core values. So the death question isn't meant to breed apathy at all. It's meant to sharpen your focus on what does matter and maybe inspire some urgent, meaningful action now.
Okay, that makes sense. So, wrapping this all up, what does it really mean, this subtle art of not giving a feck? It's clearly not about just being apathetic or indifferent to everything in life.
Exactly. Not at all. It's about caring less about all the overwhelming noise, the external pressures, the trivial dramas,
Mm.
and caring more, much more deeply about what genuinely gives your life meaning and purpose. The source doesn't promise constant, unending happiness. It offers something arguably more valuable, more real. Authenticity, clarity, and maybe a kind of deep-seated peace. It really boils down to setting clear priorities based on solid values, choosing those values wisely, and then being fundamentally okay with discomfort, with failure, and with your own, beautiful human imperfection.
And that leaves us, and you listening, with a really provocative thought to maybe chew on. Your time, your energy, your attention, they are your most precious, finite resources. Knowing that, what are you going to consciously start not caring about starting today to make more space for what truly deeply counts in your life?